Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby. Here with me is the fabulous Casey Nicholaw, director and choreographer for Some Like It Hot. Casey, this show is so high energy and so much fun. And anytime someone asks me about it, I kind of describe it as like this big classic style song and dance show, but through a modern lens. And I was wondering if you could tell me where that comes from. How did you sort of incorporate this present day storytelling in this style?
Well, first of all, thank you for that synopsis because that's what we're going for, and I'm glad that you got it. So that's
Nailed
good.
it.
No, we didn't want it to feel old-fashioned or stale or like a revival of Some Like It Hot, which wasn't really when they did Sugar, but I actually had never seen it or actually heard the music. We just knew we wanted it to feel contemporary, and Matthew Lopez was really good about with his idea that he just had the one big idea about Daphne feeling comfortable in a dress and it sort of changed things and really just seeing how doing that affected the characters and how Joe was like so not comfortable with it and I think it's cool and I think that we were able to have contemporary messages and have things that are relatable to people now without making it our whole message, but doing it through the eyes of and the style of a classic musical comedy.
Yeah.
I love the idea. I always say I think it's a modern take on a classic film. As opposed to hey, it's good old fashioned fun. And that's what we were going for, and I love that so many people are getting that.
Yeah. You mentioned Daphne, played by J. Harrison Ghee, and they sort of on the course of this journey, they kind of discover, more of their true gender identity
Right.
over the course of the piece. But I really appreciate the way it was done because it sort of comes about very organically. The audience kind of you discover it with them. And I was wondering, how did you as the director kind of chart that journey in the piece?
I think carefully for one thing, but we just wanted it to be like that, be a slow burn, and have people not expect it coming, and like you said, see it through Daphne's eyes at the same time, and have them knowing that they've been laughing all night to suddenly go, oh, this really means something to this person, and then to feel those things as Jerry is feeling them.
Did it take a while? Because I know, the original movie is a comedy classic, but
Right.
there are moments in there where much of the comedy comes out of making fun of someone being in a dress. Did that take a long time to sort of shift that?
No, because we knew we didn't want to go for that, so we were telling our version of it, when we're like, no people stumbling around in heels, you know what I mean? Just really making it be about the characters and real things that the characters are feeling and treating it all with respect and treating the situation. And first of all, they're running for their lives, which changes everything when we lean into that, but really make it about about them as performers, them learning about themselves, but without hammering it.
Yeah. And since you all have opened, there have been, unfortunately, a lot of like bills and laws that have come to pass that are sort of targeting trans people, targeting anyone who doesn't fit really on the gender, conform to gender norms. Does that make you think about this show differently? Does it hit you differently in that light?
No, I think we have to just tell the story we're telling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like everyone wants to see their story on stage, but we're not telling everyone's story. We're telling our story. And that's, to me, the most important thing is that is what we set out to do. And that's what we're doing. And we're also really setting out to entertain people as well. And if not foremost, and that's the main thing, that people are learning about these characters, but we're entertaining them. And that's the classic part of musical theater that we're taking care of.
Yeah. Another character I think that has been really reinvented was Sugar. And I would love if you could just talk about, because she has this great kind of like sultry blues singer quality. Where did that inspiration for that come about?
It's sort of just, with the big band part of things, Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman wrote Darker Shade of Blue as one of the first songs for Sugar. And we were like, wow, we love that. And also that we always thought of Sugar as being a little bit broken, that doesn't really stay with the same man, and she has issues, and she drinks a little too much. And I mean, the thing about the original movie is a lot of the character stuff was tied into who those three actors were. And here, where you're taking people that maybe not everyone knows unless they're in the theater community, you have to let them discover who they are, and you have to draw the characters a little more deeply in that way. And I just think Adriana's incredible, and her voice is amazing, and we really leaned into that part of things for her. And instead of like in the movie where Marilyn Monroe's playing the ukulele and everything's happy and fun, we thought, wouldn't it be cool to introduce the leading woman with a torch song? And also, and I love how that turned out, and I love that they end up, the three of them, meeting in a bathroom which is like this big in the center of the stage to make it intimate. And also the whole show's been going like that and running around and stuff, and suddenly our three characters meet each other all together for the first time, and it's a really intimate setting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fast-paced moments, I have to dive into that chase scene with you, because I mean, you are no stranger to having some high energy, great choreography, big dance numbers in your time, but this is really kind of next level. I sat there watching going, I don't even know, how do you even begin to construct that or rehearse that?
Well, it wasn't easy. It was really fun, but it wasn't easy. But it just came out of my head. Like I would just like lay in bed at night wide awake and just come up with a little more, then come up with a little more, and come up with a little more. And then I'd go to Glenn Kelly, who's a dance arranger, and say, okay, I need more time here. I want it to feel like this. Then I want something that's going to sound like Spatz music, or something that's going to sound like, and it took a while, like when we did our first lab, we did 2 labs of it. And when we did the first lab, I set the show in 3 weeks. And then the last week I just set aside to do that number. And it took us that amount of time. And at that time too, it wasn't a tap number.
Wow.
And then it wasn't until before the second lab, I thought, oh my God, it would be so much fun to make it a tap number. And that's something I'd never seen before. So it took a lot of planning. And I think each time we did another version of it, another lab, or went into rehearsals, we just kept changing it, and I kept changing it and seeing things differently and cutting things down and making sure it all built. But it was seriously like Tetris or a Jenga puzzle or something. You just want to make sure it's just the right amount of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it seems there's so many, classic kind of missed sightings through doors slamming, and it seems like so much of it can't even be staged until you would have all the sets and all the props. That would change timing too.
Yeah, and also it morphed as the script morphed, because it's sort of an ambitious thing to do, to try to tie up all of the loose ends in a show in a dance number, and to keep the audience's attention at that point in the show, which I wasn't sure we were going to do, but the audience just loves that moment. They just clap and clap, and it's really exciting. But I'm really proud of it because of what we were able to do story-wise as well as entertainment-wise.
Yeah, it's pretty great, and it's a massive thing to attempt without any kind of out-of-town tryout. You didn't have that for this show. You just did these developmental labs.
Right.
How does that change your process for a musical of this scale?
Well, it's tricky. I have to sort of be an audience member myself and put the other part of me aside a little bit. And I think I'm actually pretty good at that. Sometimes I'll watch the show and I'll just be an audience member and like love it or get bored or whatever at different times. And then other times I watch it like a scientist. And I'm like, okay, no, this has to be that line has to go, this and that. And I think that it's that balance, because, if you don't have an audience, you have to sort of be the audience a little bit to sort of listen and make sure it feels right. We were going to go out of town in Chicago. The theater was booked already, and then COVID happened, so we weren't able to go. And then rather than, the slot was gone and time was gone and everything else, so we ended up doing a lab instead.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive to me that you did it in that time.
Thank you.
But you
how do we do that?
It's a lot to accomplish.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of musical comedies under your belt. And this show has so many great Broadway comedic actors in it. When you
Right.
come into a scene with them, do you already have a sense of this is the timing I need, this is what it needs to look like, and how much play is there?
Well, there's lots of play. I mean, I'm extremely organized. Like I've got everything mapped out when I go in. And then the minute we get somewhere and someone starts going in a different direction, I'm ready to just throw it all out. And then because we have, like you said, they're fantastic comedians, and when Christian does something out of an impulse, I have to listen to it, or I have to say too much, knock it off. But usually I'm listening to it because he's so good at that. And, Kevin D'Aguila is just an absolute gem. He's an absolute gem. He's got the most innocent. I mean, that's what helps that romance so much. He's just so innocent and so loving and just, and also it's just so sweet how he just says the lines and he never pushes too hard or tries to make it. I'm a crazy character. He's just a warm, heartfelt guy, and it works so beautifully.
Yeah.
And when they have their instincts, it's going to be funny. And so I just let them go.
Was it Christian's idea for the accent, or was that something you or the script had?
It was Christian's idea.
It works great. It's very funny to have.
It was a lot more pronounced at first, and then I think he realized he had to like sort of pull it back a little bit.
You also, recently went back to your performer roots with this production, and you stepped into a role in the last, I think at the last minute. Can you walk us through that whirlwind? What happened?
Four people were out, and it was going to have to be a majorly cut show, and I just didn't want to do that. And out of our 5 male principals, 3 of them were out. One of them was sick. One of them had a torn calf, and then Christian had to go out of town for family reasons. And I was like, you know what? It was either my associate Steve, who was like, "You're not going to put me on, are you?" And I said, "Okay, I think I could do it." So I ended up going on for Mark Latito, and it was the first time I'd said lines in 20 years on stage, and it was really scary. I have to say, I was so nervous. Like I ended up going on for a week, and I didn't know how long it was going to be originally. I thought it would be through the weekend, but yeah, no, it was really tough at first, just remembering the lines. I thought that the chase was going to be the hardest part, but then
I was going to say, how could you step into that?
So I kind of know how it is, except that backstage, every time I went off stage, because that's what I don't get to see from the audience, there'd be a stage manager going that way, and then I run around there, and then someone else would be like, over here, go that way, because it is so choreographed backstage as well. But it ended up being really, really fun. I had a really great time, and that company is so fantastic and so game and so loving, and they're just always for each other all the time, and it's been so refreshing working on that show.
How much time did you have? Like, how much notice did you have? Were you off book for all those scenes?
I was off book, except the first night I had some stuff on a newspaper, and I was pretty bad. I was paraphrasing kind of badly. I mean, we decided at like 7 o'clock at night the night before. I went home, and then I came back at 9 for a costume fitting. And then the next day I was learning the lines and having like a little put in. And then I was on stage, and I really and I was wearing Mark's clothes, and it was just it was wild. It was wild.
Did it make you want to go back to, because you
I'm so
won't
good.
have a second act performing career?
It's funny, when I first got Spamalot as the choreographer, I asked Mike Nichols, I said, what was it like for you to go from, being a performer to being a director? And he said, my boy, I'm so much happier being Papa than the baby. And I was like, yep, I totally get it. Because I feel so much more on my skin than I did as a performer. And so I'm happy being the Papa. I don't need to go on stage again.
What is it then about directing and choreographing that makes you feel like you're in your own skin?
Well, I just I don't have that neediness. I don't have to ever walk to the theater going, Mama! Or any of that. And I just like taking care of people more than like, do they like me? Do they love me? Do they like me? I mean, we always have that stuff, no matter what job you're in. If you're a human being, you usually have that stuff, but I have much less of that being a director, because I think I instinctively know how to do it. You know, I don't question it. Like I can, you know, I can't stand up for myself a lot of times in other situations, but when it's about the show, I can stand up for the show anytime because I know what it needs. I instinctively, you know, have the vision for it, you know, and then if something isn't right, I'm like, you know, or I go like, oh, you were right. That's so much better than what I was thinking. I'm fine with that. It's all about the show.
If we think about you know, Some Like It Hot, we've just talked about so many like relevant things that this show brings up and the modern lens it comes through. What is, when people are leaving the theater, when the show is over, what do you hope they leave that space with?
Um, I want them to say that was a fantastic musical comedy, is what I want them to say, you know, and that they felt things, you know, because the thing that's been so great to me is every age demographic has loved the show. You know, I mean, there's people that don't love things, and I don't love things that everyone else loves, and so that's that part. But someone will say, I came to the show with my mom and dad and my son, and everybody loved it. And that's great because everyone will get something different out of it. And, you know, we didn't say, let's appeal to everyone. It just has happened that way. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. I've always thought like when three different generations can enjoy something, that's fantastic.
Well, I would say you've achieved that with this one. It's a great time at the theater. So if you're out here, see Some Like It Hot. And if you're watching at home, subscribe to Gold Derby. Make sure you keep up with us this season. Casey, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.